Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Good Morning Liberty. We talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of meaning every single day of the week when we want to. We haven't been here in a little bit.
Happy 5th of July to everyone.
Happy 5th.
Yeah.
One of the greatest days.
Almost 6 months removed from Jan 6.
You know, they signed the Declaration, so the Declaration's on the 4th, right? How long do you think it took to get there? So what day... What day can we celebrate as like a really annoying day in the king's life?
Like when was it actually like filed?
When was it delivered? Did you have to sign?
Did they have it notarized? You know?
Of course it was notarized. It had to be. In wax and everything, I'm sure. Yeah. But I want to know what day the seal was broken and the word got out there. That's the day that we should be celebrating too. Okay? Anyone know that date, actually? Maybe this is the 4th. I don't really know. I've never thought about it before, but that's a cool date that we should try and figure out. Right now on the Google machine, Charlie's going for it. Okay, we had our 4th of July. I'm sure everyone had a great time doing fireworks and stuff. I was telling everyone beforehand that I didn't see a single firework last night. I don't even think I saw a flash of light from a firework. I was inside with my rescue dog. I'm one of those people who was shaking my fist at the sky, upset about my upset dog. Now, there really are people that get upset about that because their dogs don't like fireworks. I have a rescue dog. She's super scared of everything, but I would never get mad at people and tell them that they couldn't shoot stuff off. What's up? You got a date?
Got a date.
What is it?
August 10th.
Holy crap.
1776.
Hey.
It reached the ear of King George III in London.
Don't tell me the U.S. mail hasn't improved, okay? They shortened that time by quite a bit.
Yeah.
August 10th, huh?
August 10th.
That is a date we got to put on the calendar.
That's another date to celebrate.
Yeah, we got to put a note up here on top of the links thing because that stays here all the time. Everyone mark your calendars. We will officially do a 4th of July episode on August 10th since we didn't do one this year. There we go. Okay, anyway.
We got called commies by some friends.
I know. I told you about this morning in my somewhat pessimistic, nihilistic view of things, which it's supposed to be White Pill Wednesday, but I don't feel like celebrating the 4th because everything that almost everyone says just kind of seems like we're not there anymore. And it's good to remember what the 4th of July was about, but we are just so far removed from what we're supposed to be that I didn't really feel like celebrating America.
Still one of my favorite holidays.
Oh, it's a great holiday.
I love it.
I was in a pool for like 7 hours yesterday. It was a fun day.
Friends.
Yeah.
You got water usually involved. It's hot.
Mm-hmm.
So there's usually water somewhere, a pool, maybe a lake.
By the way, it was the hottest average temperature on record across the world. The world average temperature was the hottest ever recorded. They started that in 1979. I'm getting that data for you.
Yeah.
So it's a big day.
Yeah, well, thanks to climate change and conservatives.
Should we get into the case that's actually pretty cool, or do you want to do some 4th of July dumbs?
Let's do 4th of July real quick.
Okay. Here's Jamal Bowman tweeting out. Congressman.
It says, this July 4th, we must remember that we stand on stolen land, toiled by enslaved Africans, and recommit ourselves to the fight for freedom, equality, and justice, so that these ideals are accessible to everyone, not just a privileged few. We are not free until everyone is truly free. What are they talking about?
I have no idea.
Like, obviously, no one condones stealing land from other people or enslaving Africans or anyone else for that matter.
Like, no one that you talk to right now would back that up.
The ideals in the Declaration of Independence, which is what we're actually celebrating on the 4th of July, have nothing to do with any of what you just said. It was literally laying the foundation and the principles for what we used to have in America. You know?
I just want to know
where things were pretty doggone free for everyone.
Freedom, equality, and justice so that these ideals are accessible to everyone. What I want to know is who doesn't have any accessibility?
Women. Trans.
So the problem is they're all built on these faulty arguments, these completely false arguments. You just said trans. I was like, well, if you can't give your 8-year-old puberty blockers, then there's no equality for everyone.
No freedom.
That's not freedom. You know, if I can't kill my baby the day before it's born, That's not freedom.
And I'm being held back.
If I don't get you to forcefully hand over your money to me because of all my bad decisions in my life, well, that's not freedom.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So anyway.
Also, I was talking to a friend about this, and he brought up a really good point, which is that it's very easy for us to sit here in our chairs,
on our two legs,
looking back 250 years ago and being like, we're so much better than they were. Like, imagine what people 250 years from now are going to look back and say about us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have more information now. We have more knowledge. We have more education. There are all kinds of things. We've grown. We've evolved. Do you know how long it takes to actually adapt and change and evolve? Animals don't do this very quickly.
No.
It takes a really long time. And we have come a long way. Now, obviously, I think we've maybe backpedaled some, but there's been a shitload. I can't say that.
It's a technical term.
You have to bleep that out if you put this as part of Tuesday's thing.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. There's been a lot of progress made, a few backslides, and there's still work to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, and the reason why there's work to do is because we're humans and we're flawed, and there'll always be work to do.
Oh, crap. Where's the Ben and Jerry's one? Ben and Jerry's, the ice cream. They say this 4th of July, it's high time we recognize that U.S. exists on stolen indigenous land and commit to returning it. Learn more and take action now. I know what you're wondering, Charlie. How many of Ben and Jerry's 577 locations are they committed to returning to the indigenous people?
Should be all of them.
I think it has to be all of them. And I think they should start right now. Okay, so there's... God.
Give up your locations and give the land back.
Corey Bush says the Declaration of Independence was written by enslavers and didn't recognize black people as human. That is true for the most part. Okay? I don't say that they didn't recognize them as human. I think they knew that they were human.
The Constitution didn't recognize them as a full person.
Yeah.
That was in the 1780s.
Actually, it's not for the Declaration of Independence to recognize people one way or another. And in fact, in the Declaration, they originally had words about slavery in there. It just got taken out. So kind of yes or no. I don't, Declaration of Independence was, technically written by, did they have slaves? Thomas Jefferson had slaves. Okay. Here's the deal. Does it ever?
What was she saying? The way I read this, she's saying the Declaration of the Independence didn't recognize black people as human. That's not true.
She's combining the Declaration and the Constitution at the same time.
Which I believe the Constitution was 10 years later, 1787?
And it was it in August? Did they wait for the day that King George received
maybe
the Declaration? What's Constitution Day? Should we know this? I don't know what day Constitution Day is. Anyway, she uses this partial fact as a reason to say that today is a great day to demand reparations.
September 17th.
Oh, I thought it was in August.
1787.
Gosh. I'm terrible at things that don't matter. She says that today is a great day to demand reparations. So you take this thing that, okay, let's say it's even partially true. Let's say old TJ had slaves.
Why did she retweet her own tweet, by the way?
This is a Corey Bush retweet of Corey Bush's tweet. That is correct. Yeah. That's true. It still doesn't negate the things that are said, like the principles that are in the Declaration, or if she's combining the Constitution with it. Like, it doesn't negate any of the words that are in it. You could say that those people didn't live up to it and that it took a while for people to live up to it. But the principles that we're trying to live up to are still good, whether or not there were imperfect human beings who wrote them or not. That's what I would say.
Well, and I think Vivek did a good job explaining this on, I think he was on BET Radio being interviewed about this. And he talked about how the Declaration and the Constitution were a set of ideals. And the reason why we haven't lived up to them is because it's impossible to live up to an ideal. But the cool thing is that it's proof that we have a set of ideals that are like so quality, that are like, they're ideals that you would want to live up, that you would teach to your children, right? That the people you love and care about would be like, hey, treat other people basically with respect. Don't steal from them.
Don't hurt people. Don't take their stuff.
Everybody's created equal. You know,
He didn't say everybody's treated equal.
No,
he said everyone was created equal.
They're all created equal, and they deserve
at
life,
least men,
liberty, and the opportunity for property.
The opportunity for property.
Yeah,
I don't like the pursuit of happiness thing, though. I think it should have been pursuit of meaning. Tell you the truth.
Well, that's why we.
I know.
That's why we pursue.
It's
meaning.
way better. Okay, this is a good story. The actual topic du jour here from the New York Times. Federal judge limits Biden officials' contacts with social media sites. This is actually a good thing. We'll see how they live up to this ideal. But a federal judge in Louisiana on Tuesday restricted the Biden administration from communicating with social media platforms about broad swaths of content online, a ruling that could curtail efforts to combat false and misleading narratives about the coronavirus pandemic and other issues.
Because that's the government's job.
Yes, and that's definitely what they're doing. For sure, they're trying to fight misinformation.
Exactly.
The order, which could have significant First Amendment implications, is a major development in a fierce legal fight over the boundaries and limits of speech online. In the ruling, Judge Terry Doughty, back up, of the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Louisiana said that parts of the government, including the Department of Health and Human Services and the FBI, could not talk to social media companies for, quote, the purpose of urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing in any manner the removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of content containing protected free speech. All right, so that's pretty cool.
That's good.
I like it. In granting a preliminary injunction, the judge said that the agencies could not flag specific posts to social media platforms or request reports about their efforts to take down content. The ruling said that the government could still notify the platforms about posts detailing crimes, national security threats, or foreign attempts to influence elections. That one's kind of iffy there. If the allegations made by the plaintiffs are true, the present case, this is a quote from the judge, if the allegations made by the plaintiffs are true, the present case arguably involves the most massive attack against free speech in United States history, the judge said. The plaintiffs are likely to succeed on the merits in establishing that the government has used its power to silence the opposition. Okay, I will tell you one thing. I was going through the ruling. It's 155 pages. And I would recommend, I'm going to put the link in the show notes. I would recommend reading it as like for fun, not to study for an exam or not to study to talk about it on a podcast. It's actually really good. And it details several different instances where the government was trying to control speech online. And
thanks to Elon Musk.
You're talking about, a lot of that. You're talking about stuff about Fauci, and I think Jay Bhattacharya is one of the plaintiffs in the matter. It's a really good read. 155 pages. Check it out. Go pick it up at your local link store. Let's see. Memorandum ruling on request for preliminary injunction. This is the state of Missouri versus Joseph R. Biden.
Et al.
Okay. Look at the people that are the defendants down here. This is pretty cool. President Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre, HHS, the NIAID, DHS, the CDC, CISA. We got, who else? The Census Bureau. Let's see. We got Commerce. They're kind of tough to tell. The DOJ, FBI, FDA,
Treasury.
Cool.
U.S. Election Assistance Commission. I didn't even know we had that. The U.S. Election Assistance Commission.
Yeah. If you don't like the election selection, I mean, they help you out with that. All right. So I want to go through some of this, just some of the cool parts let's see. Well, I guess we'll switch back off to determine whether plaintiffs are substantially likely to succeed on the merits of their First Amendment free speech claim. Plaintiffs must prove that the federal defendants either exercise coercive power or exercise such significant encouragement that the private party's choice must be deemed to be that of the government. Additionally, plaintiffs must prove that speech suppressed was protected speech. The court, after examining the facts, has determined that some of the defendants either exercised coercive power, or provided significant encouragement, which resulted in the possible suppression of the plaintiff's speech. There's one cool thing that I picked up from this. Remember when we were talking about, oh, it's a private company, they can do what they want. Well, the deal is, I still believe that. I still believe that right now, that private companies can censor speech. And what we found out, thanks to the Twitter files and others, is that the government was kind of telling them what to censor. And that's not a private company taking actions. That's a private company that's being coerced by the government, who can make their life a living hell, put them out of business, regulations, whatever. So what some people who were, in my opinion, being very emotional about it wanted to do was to go after the private companies and tell them that they couldn't do this, when in fact they were being told by the government to do this under various different kinds of threats. This case is actually what needed to happen. It's the right thing. The companies can do this if they want to, but the government cannot be a part of it because there's an implicit threat of force behind it. And that's what this court case says right now.
Or some bribery by getting some government dollars.
All sorts of different things, for sure.
It's all speculation. I don't know.
The state can be held responsible for a private decision only when it has exercised coercive power or has provided such significant encouragement, either overt or covert, that the choice must be deemed to be that of the state. Mere approval or acquiescence in the actions of a private party is not sufficient to hold the state responsible for those actions. And they cite a whole bunch of different cases. You pick up this paragraph here, Chuck.
In evaluating, quote, significant encouragement, a state may not induce, encourage, or promote private persons to accomplish what it is constitutionally forbidden to accomplish. Some more case law. Additionally, when the government has so involved itself in the private party's conduct, it cannot claim the conduct occurred as a result of private choice, even if the private party would have acted independently. Further, oral or written statements made by public officials could give rise to a valid First Amendment claim where the comments of the governmental official can reasonably be interpreted as imitating that some form of punishment or adverse regulatory action will follow the failure to accede to the official's request.
So even the government talking about how they disagree with what the companies are doing publicly can be interpreted that there could be punishment or adverse regulatory action. Remember how many times we've mentioned all the social media companies getting brought up in front of Congress and getting grilled by AOC and all of these people about how they didn't censor enough stuff after the 2016 elections and basically led to Trump getting elected, and how they needed to break up big tech, or they needed more regulations, or they were going to use Section 230. All of that is threat of regulatory action in order to make them so scared of you that anytime they voice their opinion that they disagree with what they're doing, that you're scared of what they're going to do next. And they don't have to send you an email saying, if you don't remove this, we are going to regulate you or tax you or do whatever. They don't have to do that. There's already implied threat of force, and there's already been Supreme Court cases that have found this in the past.
Additionally, a public official's threat to stifle protected speech is actionable under the First Amendment and can be enjoined, even if the threat turns out to be empty.
Okay. In determining whether the government's words or actions could reasonably be interpreted as an implied threat, the court examines a number of factors. Number one, the defendant's regulatory or other decision-making authority over the targeted entities. Two, whether the government actors actually exercise regulatory authority over the targeted entities. And three, whether the language of the alleged threatening statements could reasonably be perceived as a threat. And four, whether any of the targeted entities reacted in the manner evincing the perception of implied threat. So basically, the government has the ability to use force. They can coerce. They can control your business. They have regulations. They have taxes. They have the ability to break you up. They can do whatever they want, and they need to stay the hell out of telling you what kind of speech you should allow, because that's essentially them controlling speech. Let's see. This is where they talk about the plaintiffs, Charles.
The plaintiffs are likely to succeed on the merits on their claim that the United States government, through the White House and numerous federal agencies, pressured and encouraged social media companies to suppress free speech. Defendants used meetings and communications with social media companies to pressure those companies to take down, reduce, and suppress the free speech of American citizens. They flagged posts and provided information on the type of posts they wanted suppressed. They also followed up with directives to the social media companies to provide them with information as to action the company had taken with regard to the flagged post. The seemingly unrelenting pressure by defendants had the intended result of suppressing millions of protected free speech postings by American citizens. In response to defendants' arguments, the court points out that this case has much more government involvement than any of the cases cited by defendants, as clearly indicated by the extensive facts detailed above. If there were ever a case where the significant encouragement theory should apply, this is it.
Okay. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Like I said, I recommend reading this because it goes in and details each one of these instances where people from the White House or the CDC, a lot of this that we're reading right now is only from the White House portion. There's actually a large section that covers what the White House did, and then covers what the CDC did, and then covers what the FBI did. And it's pretty good. It's a pretty good synopsis of what people were doing during the COVID age.
Yeah, and the reason I mentioned all the case law that they put in here and several cases that they referenced in here is because from the article, it says some experts in First Amendment law and misinformation, so now they have experts in misinformation,
yes,
criticize the Tuesday ruling, quote, "It can't be that the government violates the First Amendment simply by engaging with the platforms about their content moderation decisions and policies," said Jamil Jaffer, the executive director of the First Amendment Institute at Columbia University. Quote, "If that's what the court is saying here, it's a pretty radical proposition that isn't supported by the case law." Except for all of the case law mentioned in this current injunction.
It's very heavily and very easily supported by case law. I read a bunch of this today. We didn't, there's a lot of stuff we're reading, but we're not bringing you all the stuff that I read today. They went into each one of the cases and what that instance was and how this is even worse than that was. But it's kind of like it, but it's way more on the nose than this one was.
Looks like Jamil didn't read it.
No, not at all. And that when they say like, well, simply engaging with the platforms, the problem is, well, what happens if the platforms don't do what they recommended the platforms do? Well, they have made it clear through those hearings where we got some of the famous AOC and Mark Zuckerberg clips that they were willing to regulate. They were willing to take away Section 230, willing to break up big tech, whatever that means, that they were going to use antitrust law to go after them. And so, yeah, there's always a threat of force if they don't. And then the judge also says, by the way, Trump appointed judge, so you can't pay attention to a single word he says. Yeah. What is really telling is that virtually all of the free speech suppressed was conservative, quote, free speech. Using the 2016 election and the COVID-19 pandemic, the government apparently engaged in a massive effort to suppress disfavored conservative speech. The targeting of conservative speech indicates that defendants may have engaged in, quote, viewpoint discrimination, unquote, to which strict scrutiny applies. And then there is another case with Simon & Schuster. In addition to the significant encouragement theory, the government may also be held responsible for private conduct if the government exercises coercive power over the private party in question. Here, defendants argue that not only must there be coercion, but the coercion must be targeted at specific actions that harmed plaintiffs, and that's where they get into some of the defendants' cases. Let's see. We don't have to go through all that. Then they have a list of like each one of these statements that were made by Jen Psaki and other people that worked at the White House. Like I said, this is only the White House portion. I didn't even get through the CDC and the FBI and all of these other agencies that are defendants in the case. And we've just been going through what they said the White House did. And they have quotes here. The White House accused Facebook of causing political violence by failing to censor false COVID-19 claims. Causing political violence by failing to censor false COVID-19 claims. Oh, like when they said that it could have originated from a lab in Wuhan. There's probably some kind of political violence.
Here's another one. Internally, we have been considering our options on what to do about it.
Oh, there's no implicit threat behind that.
No.
Let's see. I care mostly about what actions and changes you are making to ensure you're not making our country's vaccine hesitancy problem worse. This is exactly what I want to know what reduction actually looks like. If reduction means pumping our most vaccine hesitant audience with Tucker Carlson saying it does not work, then I'm not sure it's reduction. So they have, and then they have the Alex Berenson thing where they asked why he had not been kicked off of Twitter
and YouTube and saying, go back. He also, they also told YouTube that is shared by the highest, and I mean the highest levels of the White House.
The highest. Does that mean Hunter Biden?
The one that was doing all the cocaine they found in the West Wing.
That is a weird story, right? I mean, they have to have like an anthrax level response, of course, because there's just this white powder found. But all the people are kind of chuckling in the background, like, this is clearly Hunter's cocaine.
Wish I would have found it first.
Yeah.
Or I guarantee you half the people in the White House are probably on cocaine.
Doesn't have to be Hunter.
Yeah.
Could be tons. Could have been Joe's.
Plus Hunter likes crack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could have been Joe's cocaine.
Could have been.
That's,
I think the guy stays away. Could be Trump's.
Seem all wide-eyed out there.
Could be Trump's cocaine.
Special hiding place.
Trump Jr., Ivanka.
Who knows? Oh, let's see. We got vaccine misinformation brief. Well, there's all kinds of stuff that we've covered before. They list out each time that they think the defendants, the government, in this case, White House staff, violated the free speech rights.
Here's another one. Told Facebook, are you guys effing serious? I want an answer on what happened here, and I want it today. That's not threatening.
Of course, there's a time
that
Psaki
seems like
said,
a nice guy to marry. Actually.
Seems like a real nice guy. Psaki stated, we are in regular touch with these social media platforms, and those engagements typically happen through members of senior staff, but also members of our COVID-19 team. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. She stated that one of the White House's asks of social media companies was to create a robust enforcement strategy. Yes, asking them to take down people's speech. The companies themselves can do it. And this is, to me, is the most important thing, where you I believe we've even said this in episodes before, where we've got to be patient here and we've got to look for the actual right solution to the problem. Like, if you're mad about Facebook and Twitter taking down people's speech, well, the Twitter problem kind of got solved. It took someone with a bunch of money to come in and buy it up. And Facebook, they can take down people's speech. They can delete people's accounts. They can do whatever they want. It's a private company. But if they're doing it because the government told them to, that's not Facebook's fault. That's the government's fault. And so you got to be patient for this stuff, for people to actually bring this case and go about it the right way. Now, this is just a temporary preliminary injunction or whatever they call it while they're going through this case. Basically, while they're doing this case, the judge has said, you can't talk to any of these people. I found clearly enough right here that you're violating the First Amendment right now, and you got to stop talking to these people. And that's what they said while these lawsuits or whatever are going through the courts.
The injunction will be appealed.
Oh, yeah.
And this will go to the Supreme Court.
Maybe it goes up to SCOTUS.
I'm sure.
And we get another tyrannical SCOTUS ruling. That's one thing I was going to ask you about. It seems like I feel like we've just been losing so much, and I think it's because I'm so online, as the kids say. I spend all my time scraping Twitter for the dumbest things.
We've had some huge wins.
There's been wins.
There's been some good wins for liberty.
We got the affirmative action ruling, which I think is a win for sure.
Don't forget Roe v. Wade, not that long ago.
Roe v. Wade's
was overturned.
A big one. I think it's better for that to be left up to the states, which is essentially what happened with Roe versus Wade. There's the student loan cancellation, student debt cancellation thing that happened. There was the 303 creative one that we haven't talked about yet, but this was another bake the cake scenario, only it was designed the website scenario. And that's one that we haven't talked about much. There's been a lot of people saying things that aren't true about that case. It doesn't mean that they've ruled that any business can ask you whether or not you're gay and refuse you service. Not that we would disagree with that as a right for a property owner, for a business owner. I disagree with it morally for people to do that kind of dumb thing. But because she was making websites and that was like expression speech, essentially, they said that was curtailing free speech. Let's not forget, Charlie, this is the one that I believe the 10th Circuit Court, don't quote me on that one, also ruled that they were curtailing her free speech, but that she had a monopoly.
Oh, that's right.
And so that's why this went to SCOTUS in the first place.
Yeah.
The lower court also said that this was a free speech violation, but since she had a monopoly and that no one else could design websites like she designed them, then she had a monopoly on those products because only she could create them because they were her expression.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it was violating her expression, but since no one else could express the way she did, then she had to keep doing it.
That's right.
It was ridiculous. I don't remember when it was we talked about that, but it was
insane as that.
It's crazy.
I forgot about that.
All right, what else here? The White House defendants made it very clear to social media companies what they wanted suppressed and what they wanted amplified. Faced with unrelenting pressure from the most powerful office in the world, the social media companies apparently complied. The court finds that this amounts to coercion or encouragement sufficient to attribute the White House's actions to the social media companies, such that plaintiffs are likely to succeed on the merits against the White House defendants.
Now, is anybody going to go to jail from this? No.
No.
They'll find another way around.
Oh, yeah. Well, they'll still do it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they'll still do it. This just, I guess I would like to see it go up to the Supreme Court. We'll see. And they'll still do it. There's a little clip here from CNN. They're very, very troubled by this. Ruling here.
Judge, but this judge was confirmed 98-0 by the Senate. Just reading the words in this injunction, a, quote, massive effort by the defendants to suppress speech based on content. Those are the judge's words, calling the present case, quote, arguably involves the most massive attack against free speech in the United States history, Ellie.
Yeah. It's a dramatic decision by this judge. If you read through it, he's citing to literature and George Washington and Ben Franklin. Here's what really is astonishing to me. This is a conservative ideology that clearly comes through in this decision. It's a conservative political ideology, right? We saw some of the quotes questioning vaccines, questioning masks, conservative talking points. But the ruling itself is the opposite of judicial conservatism. This is one of the most aggressive, far-reaching rulings you'll ever see. What this judge is purporting to do is to micromanage, really, the day-to-day interactions between essentially the entire executive branch, all these agencies that are listed as defendants, and the leading social media companies. And in the actual temporary injunction, the judge basically says, you're not allowed, administration, to talk to these social media companies about any protected free speech except for cybersecurity threats, national security threats, criminal threats. But where's the line? Who's going to police?
So it's a problem if a court decides that they are violating people's First Amendment rights and essentially are going to micromanage the day-to-day actions of the executive branch. Yeah, exactly. It's a check and a balance on the system. Okay? They are clearly violating people's first, and he even says that this is a conservative ideology. This whole thing is just, how is it a conservative ideology that the government, who has the use of force over people, has clearly implied that people will be punished if they allow speech that they don't like? In what way is it a conservative ideology that this is a bad thing and that we need to check the executive branch's powers?
It used to be a liberal ideology.
I know. One of the complaints you missed here, Charlie, was that he said, well, this is a court micromanaging the day-to-day operations of the executive branch and telling them who they can and can't talk to. I'm like,
that's what they're supposed to do.
Checks and balances. Read about it.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
God bless.
Overall, this ruling is good. And I got to, once again, we got a Trump-appointed judge here.
And he was confirmed by the Senate 98-0.
Yeah.
So no one batted an eye back then.
Okay, what else do we have
so when people don't get their way, this is what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I tend to side more with conservatives. Now, there's some of them that are, I think, Trump cultists that will behave similarly.
The Trump cult is a weird thing.
There's a lot of people, I think, that lean right or more in the middle, let's say, just common sense, logical folks who, when something doesn't go their way, they don't act like a bunch of children and being like, this isn't fair. They go about it in a logical, smart way. And they're like, okay, well, this happened. Let's see if we can challenge it in court and do something about it. Stand up for ourselves, but in a, in an adult fashion.
Yeah.
But these guys, they come out here obviously attacking and just throwing labels out there because it's a decision that they don't like.
And they also talk about how this is going to curtail the administration's efforts to fight disinformation, things like that, which is completely ridiculous. And these people, they don't believe this either. Like,
information is not for the government to curtail.
Do you think these people actually think that President Biden and his administration are so concerned with the truth and the dangers of people not hearing what the actual truth is in the world, and that's all they're trying to do is just try to keep people safe? They're trying to save people's lives, and that's it. These people don't believe that. They say it. The New York Times doesn't believe that. The Biden administration doesn't believe that. But they can go out there and say it because, unfortunately, there's a lot of dummies out there who actually will believe this. And the problem, Charlie, is not these people. It's the dummies out there who allow these people to keep saying their freaking lies all the time.
Well, and here's the other problem, is that do you really want like Trump having the same power? To all the lefties out there, do you want Trump's administration to be able to curtail disinformation online?
Whatever they deem disinformation to be.
They deem disinformation. Do you really want, that's what you want? You want the Trump administration reaching out to Facebook and Twitter?
Well, and they did, by the way. It was in some of the Twitter files.
Yeah.
So, no.
Is
the answer.
Like you wouldn't, the people who, the group that rightfully gets to disseminate and decide and mitigate what misinformation is or is not is the people.
It's the people.
Yeah.
Not people up in power. That's never gone well.
No.
Okay. They're always going to have their own agenda that they're trying to push. And Trump's the same way. The people on the left, and even now with some of the Trump cultists out there, people on the right too, their ideology or their view for the future of America absolutely relies on only their people being in control forever.
And coercing other people to go along with it.
Because if you ever ask them a question like what you just said, are you okay with Trump having this power? The answer is obviously no. And so for them to want to give the government this power and also say, no, I would never want this power to be held in the hands of someone like Trump or someone else, it absolutely requires them to think that no one they disagree with may ever be allowed to enter office ever again for the rest of all eternity.
And what if?
And what would you do to make sure that didn't happen?
What if Satan himself gets elected? Ron DeSanctimonious from Florida.
I never thought we could see someone that was worse than Trump.
I know.
Immediately.
And what if this guy gets elected and his administration wants to suppress news?
I know.
Information from social media companies, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Truth Social.
Suppressing the truth, literally.
What would you do? I mean, that's the devil himself out there saying what you can and cannot say, what you can share and not share online, what you can tell your friends about, articles you can write or share among your friends, for them to just like throttle that thing down. And imagine a world. And see, God, this is why we started the show, by the way. This is why we talk about liberty. This is why we talk about freedom. This is why we talk about that the only ethical, moral society is volunteerism, is people allowing other people to be people. You can't coerce anybody into doing anything that they don't want to do.
And you have to, like, you want people to be themselves, who they are, but without coercing other people, without requiring something of other people and forcing them to do something, without taking away the liberties of other people. And that's, I'm glad you went there with it, because I've been thinking about this a lot. We've been taking these random breaks accidentally from doing podcast episodes. And so I'm just reading just the dumbest stuff online. I never get a chance to get it out of my head. It's all just been living in there, rent free in my head. And I've been wondering, like, what is wrong? What happened? Is this even fixable? Can we possibly win this? And I've been trying to figure out what it is. And I think it's the moral high ground has been ceded. And one thing, listen, I sent you that video of Jordan Peterson talking at the, was it the Dave Ramsey thing or what?
Dave Ramsey interview? Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good, because he made Ayn Rand's case for what was wrong with conservatives in America. When we talk about capitalism and markets, we tend to make the argument that it works better. As if socialism worked better, it would be fine to enslave each other to each other. That's not the case.
It's a bad argument.
The argument is that it is the only moral system. And socialism, all the other isms, are immoral. And then you build on from there. It's great that it happens to also work better than everything else. What a coincidence. That's weird. But since we don't make that argument, that this is the moral system, that it's great to be wealthy as long as you earned it justly, you didn't steal from people, you didn't. So we've stopped making that argument, and people have been, well, we haven't, and people have been afraid to make that argument. Instead, we'll look at graphs and figures and look at how much better this has worked than this. And what that does is it leaves it open for people to say, well, if we just get the right people in, they can organize the economy a little bit better. You see, in this country with a population half the size of New York City, they did a great job. And so that's what we should do. And you skirt away from the moral argument, which is that people own themselves, that you don't own other people. And it's not right to force them to do things. It's not right to force them to work and then take their money, whatever percentage you vote to take away from them. It's just not moral to do. And so whatever other arguments you make are dead to me. They're dead to me.
Well, I go back to what you said at the beginning. Is this worth winning? I think it matters not whether we win. The honor that comes with standing up for the truth, and for standing up for like the founders didn't, and this is something I said yesterday. The founders didn't know that they were going to win.
No.
They had no idea. But they were willing to give up everything, and I mean everything. Their families, literally, their wives, which might not be hard for some people to do.
They're slaves.
their homes, their children, their wealth, their farms, their status, everything. These were some of the highly status educated folks that you could imagine that signed the Declaration of Independence that would have lived a wonderful life. They would have been just fine. The king would have loved them because of who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally put it all on the line just for a chance. For one chance.
Because they were mad about the freaking Stamp Act.
At freedom. At creating a society that we believe in. And what I said is that we need men who are just as steadfast, that are just as unwavering, that hold truth and these principles of liberty and freedom as such high values that even if we don't win, it doesn't matter. We can't ever give up. You can't ever give up because these ideas matter. It's the only moral way. The only moral way. There is no other moral way. Getting people to do, even if you think it's better for everyone else, getting someone to do something by coercion is immoral. It's immoral. Not even God does that, by the way.
You still have free will.
Not even God does it. And he could.
I think when it comes to how we actually solve this situation, what did I say earlier with the people on CNN talking about they're fighting misinformation? They don't actually believe that. And they know that. The problem are the people that go along with it. And that's actually what Alexander Solzhenitsyn talked about a lot. Was that it's the people that went along with the lie. There's liars out there. They'll say things.
Jordan Peterson says if you have something to say and you don't say it, that's a lie.
Yeah.
Your silence is violence.
What we have to
In
do
this case.
What we have to do is not give in to it. Don't go along to get along.
No capitulation.
Don't capitulate to make someone feel better and to make your time easier. Don't do it, because that's how the lie continues. And if they want to live that, that's okay. Whatever. Solzhenitsyn said, let the lie come into the world, let it even flourish, but not through me. And that is how I think we actually solve this, is for all these people who know what the truth is, who know what's right, to not give into it. We got to go. Got like 8 more stories.
That's it.
Yeah, we're coming up on an hour right now, 47 minutes of recording time. We can make fun of Robert Reich since we got back to the 4th real quick. He said, reminder, many of the same corporations putting out July 4th tweets today also pay nothing in federal income taxes. This is the most, it's got to be in Dumb Bleep for sure. This is the most tone deaf, July 4th deaf tweet I saw, actually, because he tries to get at those corporations like, oh, they're hypocrites, tweeting about July 4th. They don't even pay income taxes. Hypocrites, trying to act like they care about the Declaration of Independence and the Founding Fathers, and they don't even pay their taxes. Do we not get how stupid this is?
What we fought the war for.
What an idiot.
Jesus. I can't. See, the problem is, like, I get fired up and I'm never going to give up. But then, like, you read something, I get it. You read something like this and you're like, maybe there isn't any hope, you know? Because not only that, I guarantee, I mean, at this time of the screenshot, it's only 1,400 retweets. There's probably way more.
Yeah.
And you're never going to get through those dummies.
No.
Like,
they don't listen. They need
don't-
hit over the head with something.
they don't want to listen.
just a light slap over the head. I'm saying, like, just, hey, you knock their hat, enough to knock someone's hat off.
Just a pimp slap.
That's
like
it.
a little pimp slap.
Not even a pimp slap. No, I'm saying, like, hey, just knock someone's hat off, you know?
Not even what the 5 fingers say to the face?
No, that's too much.
Oh, too much. Okay.
It's cold-blooded.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're like, well, and we need to coerce those people into liberty. That's what you're saying.
And the problem is we can't. All we can do is try to incept a little bit of liberty into their brains, let it grow into a plant, put the idea in there. Make sure that they don't have an apparatus like the federal government, the executive branch, all these other crazy agencies out there that shouldn't exist to control everyone. And they can have their dumb ideas if they want to. And I'm not going to stop their ideas. They'll have to. We need a moral reawakening in this country. And the moral that I would like is self-ownership and property rights and responsibility. And not this entitlement,
And that
victimhood mentality that is flourishing right now, that we are subsidizing.
And that doesn't mean religious morality.
No, I'm talking.
It's just humanity.
I'm sorry. I'll mention her one more time. Ayn Rand's morality. She tried to create an alternative because she's very anti-religion, and so yes, that's the morality, self-ownership.
Yeah. Now it goes along with religious themes.
It is. It's very much the same.
But it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't have to be that. It's literally like it's the only moral system, moral high ground that we have to stand on, and let everyone else argue from the valleys of their God-dorn victimhood's despair.
But what we have to do as people who are the moral people with the moral high ground is keep talking every day. What's the world going to look like if people like us aren't even going to talk about it? There's no hope if we stop, but there's still some hope if everyone like us starts a podcast. That's the only way to fight tyranny.
You guys heard it here first. All right. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend, a family member, or a foe. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Looks like Stitcher's going away.
I thought you were going to say Stitcher right there.
So looks like you need to move on over to another platform and go ahead while you're at it. Take that Stitcher review, copy and paste it on over to Apple or Spotify, whichever one you're going to listen on. By the way, you don't need to pay for Spotify monthly to listen to the podcast. You still search Good Morning Liberty in Spotify and listen to the podcast without having a Spotify subscription.
I use it to listen to our because it updates way faster than Apple does. Like 5 minutes after I release the podcast, it's on Spotify, and like 30 minutes, it's on Apple. And so to check and make sure everything sounds okay, which I do after I've released it, I go to Spotify. You don't have to have an account.
It looks like Dave here is a Stitcher listener.
Not for long.
Not for long. They are sunsetting that platform. So anyway, do those things. Go to GodHatesFeds.com, pick yourself up some merchandise, and there's a link there to go to the Fed Haters Club, which you want to be a part of. It's still only $6 a month because Nate refuses to raise the price due to liberty.
I'll do it when we start doing more episodes.
Okay.
Which is not next week either.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Definitely not next week because, oh, by the way, Charlie's leaving on Friday and will not be back.
We won't be back
until not the next week. I'm talking about back here doing a show. Not the next week, but the week after that, because next week we're going to Freedom Fest in Memphis. And so
freedom isn't free, baby.
Y'all come by our table and see us down there at Freedom Fest. There's a lot of great guests out there. Okay? Even RFK Jr. is going to be over there. Vivek Ramaswamy.
How about that?
Taibbi.
All these people that
Tulsi.
Y'all want to see.
Mike Rowe. A lot of people.
Go to joingml.com, GodHatesFeds.com, do all the things. And if you do all those things, then we'll be back again tomorrow. Hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.